Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you're a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast with John DiJulius. Do you cringe when you hear complaints? Listen in and learn to love them. This week's episode is from a presentation by Dave Murray, Vice President of Consulting with the DiJulius Group. The title of the session, which was presented at the Customer Service Revolution Conference in 2022, is Complaints 101. Complaints to any organization are truly a gift, especially these days as consumers have so many options. Are your teams handling these important interactions consistently well? Are you tracking the issues and outcomes to monitor trends and bigger issues? Join Dave Murray this week and learn some easy-to-implement standards and how to create a service recovery playbook. Enjoy.
And welcome for those of you that are coming to this room for the first time. It's nice to have you. We are going to talk about complaints, right? What a great topic, complaints. So we're going to chat about what that looks like in your world. Because I'll tell you what's happening right now, complaints are at an all-time high. Right? If you ask your customer service team, if you ask your sales team what's going on with complaints right now, they're going to tell you there's a lot of them. It's the reality, right? It's kind of this post-COVID world that we're in. So we're going to talk about complaints and what we're doing with them. So before we do that, a little bit about complaints and dealing with complaints. For us, it falls under our category of zero risk. That's the workshop that we do where we deal with complaints the most. So I'll talk about some of the zero risk things that we do. For us, the term zero risk comes from, anyone who's been part of our workshops before know what zero risk is all about? I'll give you a clue. I don't see any hands going up. I'll give you a clue. Think Nordstrom's. What's that? The tire. That's a good example. Yes, Jennifer. What did you say? The return policy. Yes. Zero risk. And the reason I bring up Nordstrom's, sometimes people yell out expensive. I didn't hear anyone say expensive. That comes up sometimes. But they are expensive because you're paying for that zero risk. Zero risk is all about the fact that they are zero risk with which to work, right? You'll buy from them because you know if something's not to your liking, if something's not quite right, they'll make it right for you. They're not going to ask questions. They're not going to give you the third degree. They'll make it right for you. Right, so that's what zero risk is all about. So when we talk about complaints, it falls under our zero risk category, if you will, of our workshop. So I'm going to give you some examples today, some exercises that maybe you can take back and do with your teams and create some of these deliverables because they're really important tools to have. But before we do, let's start with this.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have no midsize available at the moment.
I don't understand. I made a reservation. Do you have my reservation?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we ran out of cars.
But the reservation keeps the car here. That's why you have the reservations.
I know why we have reservations.
I don't think you do. If you did, I'd have a car. See, you know how to take the reservation, you just don't know how to hold the reservation. And that's really the most important part of the reservation, the holding. Anybody can just take them.
Let me speak with my supervisor.
Here we go. The supervisor. You know what she's saying over there?
What?
Hey, Marge, see those two people over there? They think I'm talking to you. So you pretend like you're talking to me. Okay, now you start talking.
Oh, you mean like this? So it looks like I'm saying something, but I'm not really saying anything at all?
Okay, now you say something else, and they won't yell at me because they thought I was checking with you.
Oh, great, I think that's enough. See you later.
I'm sorry, my supervisor says there's nothing we can do.
Yeah, it looked like you were in a real conversation over there.
But we do have a compact if you would like that.
Fine.
All right. Well, we have a blue Ford Escort for you, Mr. Seinfeld. Would you like insurance?
Yeah, you better give me the insurance because I am going to beat the hell out of this thing.
All right, so when it comes to complaints, is that currently what happens in your organization? Is it kind of a crapshoot? Maybe you get the complaint and someone goes and talks to someone else, and they try and come up with, what do we do? Come up with an answer, but there's really no plan in place, and it's kind of a crapshoot on what the answer is? Well, that's what happens in most organizations. So what we're going to talk about today is how can we make sure that we're handling those complaints consistently, that our team members know what to do, how to handle it, and be consistent with it. And it's really, really important, probably now so more than ever before. And here's why. There's a statistic out there that customers are 80% more likely to go somewhere else after one bad experience. Right? You drop the ball on me once, you screw up my order, you make a mistake, and you don't fix it, I'm out of here. Right? Customer loyalty is actually eroding a little bit since the pandemic. So we know that we need to put some things in place to help build that back up. And so that's what we'll be talking about today. So one of the first things we do when we talk about handling complaints with an organization that we're working with is we focus on making sure their team members know what to do when that complaint comes in, right? Think about your own staff, your customer service team, your folks on the phone, your folks at the cash register, whatever it is in your business. If someone comes in and starts to complain, are they trained on how to physically handle that, on what to do, how to respond? In a lot of cases, in most cases, the answer is no, right? We hired good people and we kind of hope they know what to do, but we never actually gave them training on how to handle that situation. So let me give you some examples of organizations that have done just that. Here's an example from Starbucks, right? They talk about their brand promise. Your drink should be perfect every time. If not, let us know, we'll make it right. And one of the things I want to focus on right here is their acronym of latte, right? For latte, they listen completely to the customer. They acknowledge their feelings and or the situation. They take action to resolve the problem. They thank the customer for bringing the situation to their attention, right? Because what was the customer's other option? Just not tell you, never come back, right? And I'll tell all my friends how awful you are, right? So thank you for not doing that, and thank you for letting us fix this. And then encourage that customer to return, that we know will make it right, will be better the next time, right? So do you have a latte in your organization? Do you have a tool so that when those complaints come in, your team members are confident in what to do? The answer in most cases is no. And when I see a lot of complaints come in, when I see complaints happening, kind of that human instinct takes over, right? And so that customer calls in and they're really mad. What do our people sometimes do? We meet him right up there, right? Hold on, sir. Hold on, sir. You need to calm down, sir. Right? We go to their level. We match their energy. And what does that do to the situation? Yeah, that does not help the situation. That escalates the situation, right? So we need to have a plan in place. Here's another great example from the melting pot. They call theirs blast. Believe. Believe the customer, right? How many organizations, how many of your team members think that customer's kind of full of it, right? Oh, that didn't happen. You're just trying to get a freebie, right? Believe the customer. Listen to them, right? It's not necessarily the same old story. So listen, apologize. You know, a lot of times apologies, the apologizing gets skipped. Why? Who thinks they know why people skip the apology? They don't feel sorry. That's right, Rachel. What was the other one over here? Right, we don't want to admit guilt. But when we apologize, we're not admitting fault. We're apologizing that that customer of ours is in that situation, that they're not happy. Right? If we phrase it properly, we're not admitting fault. We're not saying we did this. We're apologizing that they're going through this, and we're there to help them make it right, to fix it for them. Then the last part of the blast method is to thank them. Again, thank them for bringing it to our attention. Anyone from Alpenhaus in here? We had Alpen in here. We have a couple more. Okay, we had some of you in here last time. We have heroic for Alpen. Right here, actively listen and take notes. Empathize and apologize. Restate for clarification. Own it. Right? You make sure you see it through. Maybe you're not the person that actually resolves it. Maybe you have to escalate it internally, but you make sure we get back to that customer. You make sure that it gets resolved. Innovate with options and confirm and thank. One of the traditional models that a lot of these are built off of is LEAST, right? Listen, empathize, apologize, solve, and thank, right? So what does that look like in your world? Are your team members focused on that? So if you were here this morning, you saw Ryan Mannion from Chick-fil-A, they have a lot of great tools. Here's their service recovery tool. It's a lot, right? Look at all that, right? But it's listen, apologize, solve, and thank. But there's a lot of information for people to learn, to grasp, and to handle different situations. So we also work with an organization called Tartar. Anyone familiar with Tartar Farm and Ranch? Anyone a rancher? Ari knows Tartar. You know Tartar because you work with Tartar in our class, right? So Tartar builds ranching equipment. They build gates to keep your livestock safe, right? They're actually a really big organization, and a lot of people use their stuff on a regular basis, right? They're huge, right? So they came up with GATE. Gather all information, assess the situation, thank and empathize, and explain the solution. Let's watch this.
The GATE method is an acronym for one of the things we do best, and that's manufacture gates. It's how my great-grandfather started this company in 1945, and the acronym fits perfectly. It stands for Gather All Information, Assess the Situation, Thank and Empathize, and then Explain the Solution. By following the steps in GATE, our reps can get the info they need from the customer in a quicker, more concise way. This saves the customer's time and makes it easier for them to get help. Although every solution may look a little bit different, our customers deserve an apology for any inconvenience or misunderstanding. This strategy has already done wonders. It's helped our reps increase their confidence when they pick up the phone. The Tartar team is also using this strategy on multiple platforms through chat, text, and even FaceTime.
Like this, and then turn, right? Okay.
And then you may want to take those needle nose pliers again and just tighten it even more.
And this GATE method applies internally as well. This is making a difference in the way we communicate with each other and, of course, our customers.
So just another example from Tartar. I'm going to share another one with you, and these are just giving you ideas of maybe what yours could look like. Here's another one that I love. This is from Colton RV. Colton RV is in the Buffalo, New York area. They serve a lot of Western New York. They're in Pennsylvania now too. They sell RVs. They created Leap to Action. So when they get a complaint, a problem, a difficult conversation, their team members are now trained to leap to action. And so they listen, right? It's not the same old story. Right? Don't make that assumption that you've heard this story before and you know what the guy's going to say next. Listen completely. Empathize, apologize, and clarify. Provide next steps, thank them, and then own it. That's how they leap to action. They went further to really explain it so everyone knows what it means to listen, what that looks like. So that people in different roles, whether they're on the sales side of things, maybe they're in the service side of the house, they understand how this pertains to them, how they live up to it. So I've been working with a hospital system in Las Vegas, in Nevada, called Intermountain Health. And I was out there doing a zero-risk workshop with them recently. And we were given some examples, and we were talking about Leap 2, and there were some people in the room who said, hey, we love Leap 2. Can we just take Leap 2? Can we just maybe change a couple of words and put our logo on it and have Leap 2? Because we love it. And I said, well, you know, I'm sure the people at Colton wouldn't mind because they're very nice and they'd probably be okay with it. I could ask them. But then I challenged them. I said, what if we really just spend some time thinking about what yours would look like? What does your tool look like? How do you make it your own? And I'm sharing this with you because, again, you may want to go back. If you don't have a tool like this right now for your frontline folks to follow, I really suggest you put some focus and some time on this, right? So I challenged them at Intermountain. I said, you know what, Leap 2 is great, but maybe you can create your own. And so it's not done yet. It's going to be officially rolled out in 2 weeks, but this is what they came up with. So this is kind of the not yet sent to marketing version. A1 Care, they provide A1 Care. They apologize first. They provide a blameless apology. Now that's really big for them, blameless apology, because they have a lot of silos. They have clinics, and then they have a contact center, and they have a lot of issues between, right? There's a lot of fighting, a lot of cold transfers that were happening, right? So that blameless apology is really about the entire culture that we're here together supporting one another to provide a great patient experience. So blameless apology, own the situation. Clarify and assess, focusing on your tone. Action, what do we need to do? Reassure and resolve, and then end with a follow-up. And it's a great opportunity to be really focusing on using customer intelligence or Ford type information about that person. If you're not familiar with the term Ford, for us, it's an analogy for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Anyone know why we use that acronym Ford, what it represents? Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams? Yeah, work-life balance. The reason we focus on Ford, right, Bob, it's the information to we as humans that's most important to us, right? Our family, our occupation, what we enjoy doing in our spare time, and our big dreams, what we want to do. Right? That's the information that's most important. So if we're able to focus on that, and you can really build a relationship. And a lot of times it's just actively listening and then using that information in that conversation. Or maybe storing it in the CRM for the next conversation and building that relationship as you go. So that's what Ford is all about. So again, if you don't have an acronym yet on how to handle an incoming complaint or difficult conversation, I would suggest that's where you start. Okay? We're going to talk about some other tips and tricks as well, but let's watch this.
Enjoy your flight. Hello. Oh, I'm sorry. We're only boarding rows 9 and above right now. You'll have to wait.
Well, I'm in row 8.
Please step aside, sir.
It's just one row. Don't you think it's okay if I...
We'll call your row momentarily. Step aside, sir. Thank you for waiting. We'd like to continue boarding the aircraft now. We're now boarding all rows, please. All remaining rows. Hello. Enjoy your flight.
So sometimes complaints can really be our own fault, right? Do we sometimes not really read the situation? Maybe sometimes we're a little too by the book. Maybe we have some people that do that and not really assess what's happening and where they could be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. It happens, right? So it's really about building awareness. And a lot of times that awareness starts within the organization. We have a saying at the DiJulius Group that I love: don't punish 98% of your customers for what 2% are trying to do, right? Don't punish the majority for what the minority might be trying to get away with trying to do. But if you think about it, a lot of times our complaints are coming from maybe our own policies, right? Maybe it's something we've created. And a lot of times when you look at those policies and you say, why are they so negative, right? Because if you look at a lot of policies, they do sound angry, right? It kind of reminds me a little bit, a lot of times when you look at policies and procedures, if you kind of made the equivalent assumption or analysis of an employee handbook, right? If you read a company's employee handbook, very often it is a guide on how not to get fired, right? It's not a guide on how to thrive and grow and be great here. It's about how not to get busted and get thrown out of here, right? A lot of our policies are written the same way. So I'm sharing this with you because sometimes you may have to assess internally where might we have some issues with our policies, with some of the things that we are assuming about our customers that are kind of giving our team members license to go out there and make negative assumptions about our customers in the moment, as opposed to assuming positive intent, right? We'd rather assume positive intent and maybe get taken every once in a while than providing a horrible experience for everyone because we're worried about what some people might do, right? If you think about it that way, it really might make some of your policies and procedures look a little silly, right? So I would encourage you to go back and maybe think about that. And I'd also make you, remind you of the melting pot example. Their first bullet point was believe, right? Believe that customer. Do you feel that your team members believe customers when they come in right now? right? When they call up with a complaint, do we believe them? Do we think, oh, here comes another one? It may just be another complaint, another person screaming, but that may be our best customer on the other end of the phone. And it may be a really legitimate complaint, but we're really not paying attention because here's another one, right? It happens all the time if we're not careful. Do you have a roulette wheel in your department, right? We call it employee roulette, where the experience and how we handle that complaint really depends on who you get. And if you call on a Wednesday, oh boy. If you complain on a Wednesday, you're in for it. If you complain on a Tuesday, it's okay, right? Because Mary's working on Tuesday, but on Wednesday, whew, right? So if you don't have some of these tools in place, right? If you're not creating an acronym to handle those complaints and do it consistently, if you're not going back and looking at your current policies and seeing if we're kind of putting up barriers for our customers as opposed to helping them be customers, then you probably also have employee roulette. You probably have some employees that naturally do things better and some employees that you don't want to answer the phone if it's your best customer, right? We all probably have a couple of people we can think of right now if I ask that question, right? So, but instead, why don't we train for consistency? Why don't we give them the tools, starting with that acronym, whatever your acronym turns out to be, and give them the tools to deliver a great, consistent experience.
At the DiJulius Group, we know how difficult it is to provide an outstanding customer experience, especially when expectations are so high. That's why we created a framework that systematizes the experience you deliver. Our consultants use that framework as they work with your team to create a world-class brand experience that can be delivered simply and consistently, without affecting productivity or adding special software. Are you ready to be world-class? Visit tdg.click/Claudia to schedule a call and get started today. That's tdg.click/Claudia.
Here's the other thing that's really, really important that I would ask you to think about in your business and maybe work backwards. Look at your complaints. Take a look at where we're getting complaints. What are they complaining about? And then ask yourself, hey, if we were to go back in time, we could go 4 weeks back in time, what could we have told that customer to prevent this from happening, to prevent them from getting angry? We like to say that just about 99% of your complaints could be handled if you did a better job managing expectations sooner, right? But a lot of times we make assumptions. We assume that the customer gets it, they know the drill, or we assume that someone else on our team told them, and we're not actually managing those expectations. We're not sharing that information. It happens all the time. And then what happens 6 weeks later, the customer's not happy, they call in and they complain and they're really, really upset. A simple conversation could have stopped that from happening. So here's an example. This is an example from when John wrote The Relationship Economy. Just want to give you this quick example because I think this is a great example. Maybe you can implement something like this in your business. So when John wrote The Relationship Economy back in 2019, the agreed upon publish date was May 15th, right? That's when the book was going to hit shelves. The publisher agreed on that date. John agreed on that date, right? Then what the publisher did is they worked backwards with this timeline, setting expectations for themselves, so all their team members, as well as John, who in this case was the customer. The author was the customer, right? Here's what we need you to do, and by when. Here's what we need to do, and by when, in order to hit this date. And then what I didn't put on this slide was there was a lot of small print on that basically said, if any of us miss these dates, then we might not hit this target date that we both agreed upon. And they both agreed to it, right? But sometimes, especially for some of you that have more complex business cycles, sales cycles, you may have to be really detailed in managing those expectations and make sure that customer understands where they have skin in the game or have a deadline or details that they need to bring to the table in order to get what they want out of the process as well, right? So making sure that you're as clear as possible with your customers. So that may be something you want to go back and assess. Here's a question for you. How easy is it for your customers to complain to you? What do you think? Is it easy? Is it as easy as possible? Right? A lot of companies make you go online and you would just love to call and talk to somebody, but there's no phone number anywhere online. They just a form you can fill out, and you know that no one's ever going to get back to you, right? Is it as easy as possible to complain? Anyone here from the Portland area? Yeah. Do you ever go to Umpqua Bank? So Umpqua Bank does something pretty interesting. They have, I don't know if they still have it, but they used to. They have a CEO hotline in their branches. So they're a bank, and they wanted to be kind of like Starbucks. They wanted a place to hang out. You can go there and make your deposit, but also just kind of chill out, maybe work on your laptop, have a free cup of coffee. Right? It was really kind of a nice experience. But they also have this, right? They have a hotline in every branch. If you pick up that phone, it rings directly to the office of the CEO. So you can say, hey, I had a great experience. Or you could say, hey, guess what happened to me today? Want to hear about my lousy experience? So here's the thing. They advertise this internally so every customer in there knows they could pick up that hotline and go right to the CEO. Every team member knows too, right? At any moment, someone could turn around and go to that hotline and call the CEO, right? So how easy is it for you to complain? Your people to complain to you, your customers who complain to you. Here's another great example that I love. This comes from the spa, John Roberts Spa that John talked about this morning. This is on the wall in every location, right? John is literally advertising for your feedback, whether it's positive or negative, right? So he says, hey, how was your experience today? If someone was great, if someone was a rock star, tell me, I want to know. I want to celebrate it. But also, if your experience was less than you had hoped for, I want to know that too. So not only does he ask for that information, but then on the bottom there, he gives his cell phone number. And that is his real cell phone number. If you dialed it right now, we could probably hear it ring next door because he's in the room next to us. That's his real cell phone number. When he put that in all the salons, people are like, you're crazy, right? You have your cell phone out there. People are going to call you at midnight on Saturdays. But here's what happened, interestingly enough. He gets some phone calls, and rightfully so, right? When someone has an issue and they're upset and they want to voice it to him, he gets calls from time to time. But what was interesting was the amount of emails that he received increased. So people see that he gave his email and his cell phone, and they take from that, he's serious. He really wants to know. Okay, I'm going to share. I'll send him an email that it was great. Or I'll send him an email that it wasn't so great. Right? So by advertising, not only does it give people an easy way to voice that complaint, but it also increases their willingness to provide that feedback, which is ever so important. So we talked about, are some of your people maybe a little too by the book, right? Maybe they're not really observing the experience. Here's another example. Let's watch this video.
I locked myself out of my room. Hey, how are you? Hi, how are you? I need a key. Okay, not a problem. What's the room number? 208. Hold on. Okay, go. 208. Do you have any ID? Yeah, I don't have any photos. I just need to see a driver's license. Yeah, how can I have a driver's license? I'm naked, man.
All right, so the good news is that was not the Marriott last night, for those of you that stay there. But do you have team members that are that by the book, right, that are following policy? I love that video. So the manager comes over, right? The first person at the desk is like, I'm out of here, right? I can't help you. I'm going to beat it. And the manager comes over and says, can I have your room number? And the guy says, he's like, 208, like, hurry up, right? And the manager's like, whoa, hold on. I'm not ready to type yet. Okay. And then he types in 208. And then he asks for the driver's license, right? So ask yourself this. That's obviously a pretty extreme example. But where in your organization do you have policy that gets in the way of the experience? Policy that we're so focused on, we're kind of blinded by those other things happening, like a guy with, what are those things called? Those trays, whatever they are, right? Two things protecting himself, standing in front of you who needs a key, right? So a lot of times you may have to go back and look at some of your policies and say, okay, yeah, these rules and regulations are important, but where can they be guidelines instead of policy, right? Where can we make sure our team members understand that we have some wiggle room here, right? If a guy comes down and he's naked, just give him a key, right? We don't need a driver's license, right? So Where are those examples in your world? Because, again, there's probably no nudity in your business, but there probably are some examples that are somewhat similar where we're making our customers jump through hoops when they don't need to. Right? It happens a lot. Leads to complaints if we're not careful. Another thing that we do with our clients is really assess the challenges. Right? So this is an exercise that you may want to do. Get some of your team members together and kind of outline or take an inventory of those challenges you have. What are the complaints you're getting? And then say, okay, which ones that are pretty common, but they're easy. You can just send a gift card. You have these available. Just send out a card, whatever it is. Just listen and respond. Hear them out. Right? What does that look like? And then what are the majority that are more common? Maybe take a little extra work. Maybe they get escalated to the manager, but we have a system in place. And then where are those major resolutions, right? It's all hands on deck. Call everybody, right? Get the boss over here, right? Call the owner, right? So if you are identifying which ones are which, then your team members can more easily assess and be prepared to handle them. So we worked with the Maids International. They went through this process years ago, and they created scenarios, and then they kind of made this heat map chart, if you will, based on color, right? So these were common scenarios that they dealt with when they were in someone's home cleaning, whether they broke an item or something went wrong, right? And then they had the level of severity. So if it was that lighter color orange, it was okay. They knew what to do. They had a solution. If it were that darker orange, make sure you escalate this up, get management involved. If it were the red, then it was all hands on deck, right? Call the owner. We really need to fix this problem. This is a big issue, right? So what are those in your world? What do they look like? Where do they exist? Because I'm sure they do exist if you're not careful. Here's another one that I love. Again, maybe not all of these are things that you need to go back, but you probably need some of these. And here's one that I love because a lot of you have these in your business. What are the things that aren't your fault, but become your problem? And when I mean become your problem, they affect your customer's experience, right? So what are the things that aren't your fault, but they're going to have a negative impact on your experience? And here's the other question I have for you. What do your team members do right now when that happens, right? If someone calls in with one of these issues, not your fault, but your problem, your team member's like, that's not we didn't do that. You're on your own. Right? If you don't have any protocols in place, that could be happening right now without you knowing it, or maybe with you knowing it. Right? We didn't do that. Right? So what are those things that are happening? Here's a great example. I'm going to go back to the example of the melting pot. So, do you ever go to a business dinner? Right? Maybe you have a new client and you're trying to impress them. And so you're taking them to the nicest restaurant in town, you got your corporate card, and you're already having this dinner and the bill comes, I got this. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being clients. I got this. Right? And then you didn't know. It's a bad month at the office. No one paid the Amex bill. And your card doesn't work. Right? What happens in the normal scenario? Who's Mr. Murray? Mr. Murray, your card didn't work? Right? Well, how's that for a new client meeting? Right? Hey. Instead, what they do is they have this. They put this in the sleeve. It's basically just a little note that says, hey, we had a problem with your card. So when it's convenient, just come up to the hostess stand and we'll take care of it. Right? As opposed to saying, who's this Murray guy? Right? So giving your team members tools to handle those things that aren't your fault, but are your problem. And I can share with you that very often, these things are best solved by your frontline folks. Get them involved. The ones that are either on the phones or face-to-face with your customers doing this every day, they're the ones that are going to come up with the best solutions because they're the ones that have to deal with it. So it's a great opportunity to get them involved and get them working on your experience going forward. So one other thing that I want to share with you that I think is really, really important is what happens next. And here's what I mean by that. I'm amazed at so many organizations that I work with that get complaints, handle the complaints, and then the complaint just kind of poof, disappears, right? It vanishes. It doesn't make it on a spreadsheet, doesn't make it into some sort of system where we're tracking, right? Sometimes complaints are kind of fixed and then just swept under the rug because we don't want to look bad in front of the company, right? We don't want the boss to know that so many people are mad at us, so let's not tell anybody about these, right? Maybe that happens in your company. But what a lost opportunity. So many organizations don't track their complaints, right? So if you're not doing this, maybe this is the place to start, right? Track your complaints, fix them, of course, right? Fix them to the best of your ability, but then keep track of where they're coming in, why they're coming in, who they're coming in about, time of day, time of year, all those things, and look for trends. Look to see why, learn something. Because if not, it's kind of like letting history repeat itself if we're not doing this work, right? So, of course, we want to be the best at solving those complaints, but we also need to make sure that we understand why they're happening and how we can solve them from happening in the future. So that's a great place to start. Oh, and one other thing, don't forget to track your compliments too if you're not, right? I'm also amazed at how many organizations don't track how many compliments come in and who they're about and where they're going, right? Maybe they just send an email, hey, Bob did a great job, yay, Bob. And then that's it, right? And there's not any sort of measurement that, hey, Bob got like 8 emails last week. Bob's killing it, right? So make sure you're tracking those complaints. Make sure you're tracking your compliments. And then it's a great measurement on how you're doing overall, right? Because hopefully your complaints start going down and your compliments start going up, right? As you put these into place, these tools. All right, so let's watch one more complaint in action.
Okay, so I bought this cheese in your shop. It cost me $40, and when I got it home, there was a hair stuck to it. No, I don't have a receipt. Nevertheless, I would like my money back. Oh, really? Oh, really? You don't take cheese back, do you? Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do then. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. What am I going to do? I am going to go online, and I am going to write your unsanitary cheese shop a scathing review on Yelp. Boom! Mic drop. Ha! Ho. Hi.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, it's all good. It's just turning some cheese.
You sure? Do you need to call anybody?
No, thank you, sir. That's very kind. Okay. So, I bought this cheese here. It cost me $40, and there is a hair stuck to it.
Oh, yeah, we can take that back.
Wait, what?
Here.
Wait,
Okay. Take this. Your next purchase is on us. Did you want to fight?
Yes, please. I would like to have a little bit of a fight.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where's your receipt?
I don't have a receipt.
I can't take it back without a receipt.
Oh, yeah? Well, the name of the store is stamped on the cheese, okay?
How do I know you didn't just beat up somebody and steal it?
Who does that?
You might.
Really?
Yeah, you look like the kind who might.
I am going to go on Yelp, and I am going to give this place a scathing review. Scathing. I'm going to blow up the internet. I'm going to break it.
Oh, my God, you scared me so much. Please take our money. Leave the cheese.
Thank you. Thank you. Was that so hard? It's called customer service.
Fine.
Thank you.
Fine.
Thank you. That was
You're
really
so welcome. A lot of people really like that.
That's great, too.
See you again. Bye.
All right, so except for that occasional fake fight that your team members may have to provide, hopefully today's session will give you some tools to take back and handle complaints a little bit better in your organization. Again, those acronyms, right? Come up with your acronym, right? What's the acronym that you need? What are those opportunities to make sure that you're embracing and thanking for that complaint coming in as opposed to just brushing it aside? And where else can you focus on this across your organization, right? Maybe it's those policies and procedures that you have in place. It's being skeptical of your customers to begin with, not giving them the benefit of the doubt. There are so many places to start this process. My information is up on the board there, my email. You can reach me on LinkedIn. If you want to continue the conversation, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thanks for being here today, and hopefully your complaints get a lot better going forward.
We love to read your reviews. Please be sure to share your comments and let us know what you're enjoying most on the podcast. And to hear more episodes, be sure to subscribe now on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Thanks for listening and being part of the customer service revolution.